All right, guys, welcome to the live chat. Ryan and John, thank you for being here. And I am joined here with Charles Nils of Pristine Actions out of Canada. And we're going to go ahead and have him introduce himself and give a little rundown.
Hi guys, Charles here. I'm here to talk about our action and what we're doing up here in BC. And my background a little is always loved the outdoors and shot quite a bit of stuff and target shooting and adventurous sports kind of thing like that. And now here we am. Well, I also was a machinist, and that kind of transitioned into this avenue of my life.
There you go. That's awesome. So, what made you start your business as a machinist? Like, um, what what transpired you to jump into I want to
The
build rifle actions now.
Yeah. Well, initially to become a machinist was more or less family trade. Like my father was a machinist and he started up a company and I started working there and learned the machinist trades and everything. And then coming into the firearm aspect side of it, it was one day like my brother and I were talking and we're like, hey, what do we should make our own rifle. Like it'd be really cool to do it. So we started talking about it more and more and started drawing up what we thought would work out and made the idea become a reality.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, that's sorry, my internet just switched over from Wi-Fi to cell phone. I'm down here in my studio. Sorry about that. Um, so with you guys being family owned, family operated, things like that, how does that lay into the quality and the integrity that lies in your action?
We we tend to, yeah, family business, we've always kept it very separate. Like in business, we're not brothers, we're not family, we're very strictly professional. The values that correlate across is really, we have a handful of values we really try to follow is positive, being respectful, um, mastery of what we're doing, and constantly trying to improve what we're doing, and effort and self-discipline, doing what needs to be done even if it's difficult. And that's kind of what we walk with across our lives and in business as well, and in our actions and the quality of actions. Like we're always striving to make it better. Like feedback we get, we'll try and incorporate it in there. We'll try to make it the best we can with what's available with us to work with, which in nowadays time you're pretty much not limited to do anything.
There you go. So are y'all using like tool and die CNC? Are you using like hand lap tools?
We are
What's kind of like your
like modern day manufacturing, we're using CNC equipment. So we have a bunch of horizontals, mill turns we're using. So the mill turn's like a lathe mill hybrid. You can do milling and turning at the same time. So the very capable equipment, 5-axis. We don't need true 5-axis machining on any of our parts, but we try to incorporate modern manufacturing into our designs to streamline it as possible.
Gotcha. Um, what materials are you guys using? Are you using like a stainless steel, like a 4R16 stainless?
Yeah, so the 416R stainless is our receiver, and then our bolt head and bolt body and the other components are out of a 4340 HTSR. So those are the components that are nitrided. And then yeah, the receiver was the 416 stainless because we were leaving it there, stainless material.
Gotcha. That was gonna be my next question. Is there nitrided options available? But you kind of
At this
answered that.
time, yeah, we didn't want to go down the nitride. Like if any coatings come up, it's probably more likely we would go Cerakote, but we don't want to go that route yet because yeah, we had talked about that, but testing wise, we don't know if the Cerakote will hold up in all the contact areas of the action, like on the primary extraction where the bolt handle comes out and things like that, where it's high wear.
Gotcha. So I was looking a lot on your actions, um, and I love a good fluted action. So is there any plans in the future for a fluted action or something along those lines?
Yeah, so the good news is we did a run of our bolt bodies that have the fluting. So we just have a bit of inventory left to get rid of the ones that don't have the fluting, and everything else will be fluted. So it's pretty exciting for us
No.
to see that.
Now, what if there's that guy that's just, I can't stand a fluted action. I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way they feel. Are you going to have that smooth um, action also, or is it strictly going to be fluted from there?
We're strictly just doing the fluted. It seems like the feedback is most guys want fluted. There's chances we would have a few leftover non-fluted bolt bodies that could be requested. And yeah, if it makes sense, we can get it for whoever would like that. But yeah, almost everyone always, the feedback we've gotten is like, when are you going to have fluted bolt bodies? When is it coming out? And yeah, we're trying to incorporate all of that kind of stuff into our designs as we go forward.
I mean, the second I saw your actions finally released, I've been intrigued by them for a while. Ryan here, he's a good friend of mine out of North Dakota. He's got one of your actions, and I'm I'm so excited to see him get it finished and check out that rifle. He's got a beautiful Cerakote that he's doing on it, and it's going to look phenomenal. Um, so let's go into a little bit of the design of your action because there's some really unique stuff here with your action. How you can switch from a short action, small case head 223 to a larger case head short action and a 308. How did you come up with that design with so like there's major pressure differences between 308 and 223. How did you guys kind of figure out how to make that combine into one solid action all the way around?
Basically, we went with 308 first and then worked our way backwards. So because if we know it can withstand pressures of 308 and way more, because it is able to withstand way more, um, we just made a smaller bolt head capability for different cartridges there, and then we didn't have to worry about backwards like developing for a smaller cartridge first and going to bigger. We just went the biggest we could fit in the design we had, and then worked our way backwards, smaller, basically, or forwards, depends which way you look at it. Um, yeah, so the head is just easy to interchange. The way we came up with the interchangeable head is, yeah, just we honestly looked at a ton of different factory rifles and did a lot of research and how different people were doing things. And there's a few unique things in there that we came up on our own, and there's a few unique things that were, yeah, like different designs that we were like, hey, that's kind of neat. How can we tweak it a little bit to make it our own kind of thing? We're not. It's it's kind of like you see something, you learn from it, and then you make a few changes and like that. So there's a few things we came up with 100% on our own, but most things, like most rifles, they're always amalgamation of the rifles before them in time.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you've got a pretty unique design with that six head bolt face or six lug bolt face, sorry.
Yeah, so
Um
I can jump right into why we went with that design. Basically, ease of manufacture. So most three lugs or most modern manufactured styles of receivers don't have the raceways down the side, because that's more painstaking to machine and manufacture that style of receiver with the
mhm.
raceway. Like the big, like say Remington 2 lug, you got those two raceways on the side. So you either have to broach that or you have to EDM it. And we didn't want to go down that route. So we could go with an oversized bolt with the three lug, and then you got a bigger bore, and you also have issues with, if it's a Remington 700 drop in, you're gonna have to drop your magazines to make it fit. So you're not a true Remington 700 drop in. So we're like, how can we retain the Remington 700 diameter of bolt, but not have the raceways in it? And that's how we came up with this multi-lug design of head, where we have three lugs. We can keep that small diameter because it's a same diameter as the Remington 700, but we needed to have enough contact area on the front to maintain structure and strength there. So that's why we came up with 6 lugs.
Gotcha. So with you being a Remington 700 footprint, um, can I use like the AICS style mags with your action, or is it more of a embedded magazine is better for your chassis there?
Both would work fine. So any stock action that works with Remington 700 will work with ours, like magazine wise. If there's any that like encloses the whole receiver, like there's some aftermarket chassis that kind of enclose your receiver,
Hmm.
those technically would work with ours, but you wouldn't be able to release your bolt because the bolt release is accessible on the side, where the Remington 700 is not like that. So that's the only Remington 700 chassis or stocks that say wouldn't work on ours are the ones that enclose it where you can't reach that bolt release.
Gotcha. Um, so going back to the six head lug design, um, six bolt lug design, sorry. What degree action does it make it? Does it make it a 90? Does it make it a 80? Or what does it make it now with that
So
throw?
yeah, this one is still 90 degree. So we have 3 lugs, 180 degrees to each other. So you have the 90-degree throw, which promotes, yeah, a lighter bolt lift than we would have got if we went to, say, the 60-degree throw.
Hmm.
Um, and that's one of the reasons why we stayed with the 90-degree was because we wanted to have a lighter lift and not have, when you have the 60-degree, it's a lot stiffer usually, and it pulls you off of target sometimes unless you really, really train with it. And that's basically the way we went for that reason.
Gotcha. Um, so I know you kind of got your own extractor, but it's more like a Seiko design extractor. Um, what prompted you to go towards that Seiko style kinda, even though it's your own? Was it based on the premise of Seiko is what works, or is it just one of those things?
It was based on Seiko. We did a bit of research, and the Seiko design appeared to be very robust and strong. Like they didn't seem to ever break. And we initially were using just a true Seiko extractor, exactly size for size, but we ended up having to make a few tweaks. And yeah, it is so strong. Like if for some reason you're trying to pull out a cartridge and it's not wanting to come out, the extractor is going to rip off the rim of the cartridge before it would fail.
Gotcha. Um, so I'm a big Wildcat guy. I know Ryan Rafferty's a pretty big Wildcat guy. I'm not sure if Chris here from the 740 is much into Wildcats like how Ryan and I are. But do your actions, are you going to come out with like kind of a floating head design for somebody that wants to run like a 6BRX or a 6 Dasher or something like that? Or are you going to stay with that standard head of the 308 223 style there?
We'll probably stay initially with standard. If we have enough requests for the Wildcat sizes, I'm assuming is a Wildcat also a longer cartridge, or is it just in a different head size?
So so there's a Wildcat 308. Like you have the 308 that's like 308 Ackley improved. You have 6 millimeter um that's been 243 Ackley improved, stuff like that, where the case is completely different, although it's the same cartridge, kind of, but it's been improved, I guess the best way to explain it. So the
Because
cases get a little bit bigger and things like that.
if the head size is the same, then it will still function. If it's a different head size, as long as it doesn't go bigger than a 308 diameter, chances are it would be an easy thing for us to incorporate. Um, but yeah, it's based on demand and also like in our tier of what we're going to do first is like left-handed actions and then going from there forward.
So Ryan here is doing his in a 7 millimeter saw with his Pristine action. Right now he has a 243 on his with a 1 in 7 twist. Um, so he's got one of your actions actually.
Wow, that's awesome.
Um, Mike Sharp says Seiko Tika extractors are the best. We all agree with that. Um, so let's kind of jump into a little bit of what's warranty like with your company. I mean, kind of industry standard is lifetime minus end user doing something to purposely destroy it. But is it kind of the same lines with you guys?
We're, yeah, lifetime guarantee. Anything that fails abnormally or fails is like, even if you were to say drop your gun down a cliff and the handle falls off, we're going to replace that. But we're not going to replace like purposely destroying something, like seeing how strong it is in a press, say for instance, and it doesn't
Yeah,
function anymore. Like we're going to draw the line somewhere, but it's hassle free. Like we will make it right for the end user as soon as quickly as we can, and we have the 90-day money back guarantee. If you're unhappy with it, you send it back, you get your money back, no questions asked. Like obviously we would like you to keep it if we can make it right, depending what it is, but
yeah,
it's pretty much like you're guaranteed that after 90 days you obviously did like it because you didn't send it right back, and there's no
yeah.
reason in our opinion to not like it because it's a very beautiful action and it is very smooth, which is, yeah, the smoothest bolt lift in the industry. I would say it's one of the smoothest. I'm not going to say it's the most smoothness, but because I haven't built them all, but it is smooth.
So yeah, everybody I've talked to that has one of your actions, and I've talked to 3 or 4 people now that have them or have messed with them, they've all complimented how smooth they are. Um, but does that come with like a break-in cycle there? Like, let's say the first couple hundred rounds is gonna be a little bit tighter than what it is at 500 rounds or something like that. Does that make sense?
I would say yeah, that makes sense. The smoothness of the bolt lift, I don't think will get any smoother because that's the roller being incorporated along the wrap there with the cocking piece, and that's very smooth because it's literally rolling up there. The smoothness of the bolt slide from front to back, that will probably get smoother over time. We have
Gotcha.
one where we shot probably about 10,000 rounds at least minimum through it, a 223. And that
Mhm.
one, when you rack that bolt back and forth, it's so smooth. It's just amazing.
Gotcha. That's a lot of rounds on your action. So how long have y'all been operating for? I know you just came to the market this year, but that's a
We
lot of
just
rounds.
we shot a lot of rounds non-stop. One guy reloading eggs, and another guy shooting. And yeah,
So
like
what's
the
your
your barrel was not a match grade barrel we were using because there would not have been a very long life on that one time wise.
so um gotcha. Now what's your preferred ammo for when you're testing there? Um
It depends what we're trying to test at the time. If it's just strict, like say, um, the equivalent to dry firing, but you say want to test your firing pin for something for many, many rounds, well, then we go with 223 or whatever the cheapest is at the time. But for regular shooting, for seeing how it's running and things like that, we use a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor a lot. Personally, I use a 308 because that's what I'm used to. Um, and I really like the round, but we also shoot 6.5.
gotcha. So John's got a question here. With your um barrels being pre-fit for the Savage, does he need a barrel nut or will like a shoulder barrel will it work with yours? I watched your video on your channel the other day, so I know the answer to it. Um, but I'll let you go into it.
The quickest and easiest would be the Savage pre-fit style with the nut on it. But we do offer, we have drawings. Well, they're not quite published yet. We're working on getting it all established with the actual tenon specs. So you could use a shoulder barrel on our action. We haven't yet guaranteed that every action coming out the door fall in that spec because we're tightening everything up. We were running it all very tight, but we couldn't guarantee that we'd be within, I think it was plus or minus 1 thou, like a total variance of 2 thou, which seems like most barrel builders would like it that tight, because then we can guarantee that everyone coming out the door will be within that range. So we're working on getting it. So before I send it out the door, we check that size, and we can use, if we have to, we have different size recoil lugs so we can get it right into the right size. So a
Okay.
shoulder pre-fit will work.
Now, do you guys do quality control on every single action as it's going out of the door? Or is it kind of five from each bundle that you're making of 20 or something like
So
that?
every receiver that's getting machined goes through, not everyone, sorry, correction. One, so as it's running, obviously the first one will, as the machine gets set up, it has a full inspection done on it with a CMM machine, which is, yeah, it has a little head and a probe, and it will check all different spots on the receiver to make sure it's accurate and aligned with itself. And then we do gauge checks during the run, and every shift, at the beginning of every shift, because they're usually running 3 shifts on these parts. So the beginning of every shift, they'll also check it on the CMM again. And then once the parts are all done and we're assembling, we're also doing inspections then. We'll, like, as we're putting the parts together, we double check fitment, we double check sizes, like the tenon specs from the recoil lug to the tip of the bolt head. We'll measure that to make sure that everyone coming out of the door will be to spec.
Gotcha. So Mr. Eagle Run 23, one of my really good friends up here on YouTube, he wants to know, is there any deals for stream watchers, and how do I order one from being from another country?
We've had a few people from overseas order some. Basically, we can export to pretty much any country unless they're on the list that we're not allowed to export to, which I don't think very many are. But yeah, just through the US website. And then once the paperwork's in place on where we're importing it to, usually the individual has to get some sort of documentation from their government party to be able to legally import it. But we have done to a few different countries already, and it works pretty flawlessly.
Gotcha. Um, Hold on one moment. Um, so I'm a big rimfire guy, and I love long action. I love short action. I love all that stuff. But is there any plans for doing like long action, rim action, or rimfire long action, or like a magnum caliber styled of action?
But there is, so obviously, yeah, like I think I mentioned earlier, left hand is first, and then we're gonna go probably do the long action and the magnum together, because in order for us to get the magnum to work out, we have to completely revamp the bolt design, because it's just too small. We can't fit a magnum in there and be able to extract it with the claw without excessively reducing our lug size. So we have a few different ideas of how we could get a magnum to work without changing too much. And long action will probably come hand in hand with the magnum, because most long actions already have the bigger bolt head size for the casing, so we'll have to change our design anyways, so we'll incorporate all of that in one.
So are you going to try to go with the Savage pre-fit on those two, or are you going to go with the um with a different barrel for that?
I can't I don't know for sure. We might go Savage pre-fit and still be running it to a spec where pre-fit like shouldered barrels would work. But yeah, we haven't really talked about that yet.
Gotcha. So if you didn't go Savage, is there any other one that you would possibly go with? Like, let's say Savage didn't offer one for that Magnum or anything like that. Is there any other one that you might consider over one or another?
Honestly, we would probably, what we would do is call up a bunch of barrel makers, custom gun builders, and say, what would you guys want? Because
Gotcha.
for us, we might say, hey, oh, this is a brilliant idea, and then the barrel maker will be like, why would you choose this thread size, or why would you choose that style over this one, right? So we would get feedback, and based on answers, we'd be like, hey, this makes most sense. Most people seem to prefer this or prefer that. We're not stuck on any specific size. It's more or less what the end user would like to see from us.
Gotcha. So, is there any of your actions that you guys have built that has just been your all around, no matter what, it's been your favorite action you've ever messed with? Is it your first one? Is it your last one? Which one has been your personal favorite out of all of them?
I That's a hard question. Like
Sorry.
they're well, they're pretty much all the same, except for ones that I've Cerakoted with some pretty cool designs, and then putting some in some really cool chassis. I would say the favorite one that I built was it had a carbon fiber barrel on it, and it had a carbon fiber chassis on it, the MDT HNT 26, their Hunter one, and a super light gun. It was a nice gun, just beautiful all around. Like there was nothing not to like on it. And yeah, it's just a light build in that setup with a small, not a huge scope on it. We were running a 1-inch tube scope on it to keep the weight down for a hunter. And we were just shy of 10 pounds. Like it was a light build for what it is without being titanium or anything like that.
Yeah. So, is is there a chassis that of all the chassis manufacturers that are out there, is there one that you just absolutely love over any of them?
I don't think I have any favorites really, because honestly, I haven't tested all the ones that are out there either. So I'm sure there's some chassis out there that are awesome that I've never had my hands on yet. And it all depends also what kind of shooting I'm getting into. Like if I am doing hunting, then I obviously would like a lighter one, but if it's competition, the heavier ones are nicer. And most of the chassis I've handled, like I like them a lot. We buy a lot of the MDT product because they're local and the quick turnarounds because they're local and for testing and things like that. And we like their product too. The hunting one with the carbon fiber though, right now is one of my favorite ones just because it looks so sweet.
Gotcha. Yeah, I is that the one that you just assembled on your YouTube? Is it that one or is it a different one?
It might be a different one. I don't know if I assembled that one.
Okay,
We have the hunting one, I think at the maybe it was at the NRA show or it was SHOT Show. I think we had it in a hunting chassis. I think the NRA we did carbon fiber.
gotcha. Ryan says at his shop that they're working on a custom assembled rifle package using Pristine Actions. So,
Nice.
um, Ryan's
That's
a
the
master armor just like I am. So,
yeah.
um, so that's pretty cool. And I've got John posting all your links here. Everybody get over to their YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and blow up their notifications and make them trending over there. So, um, how far are you guys from modular driven technologies? Are y'all like relatively close, or is it just a couple hour drive? Or
We're in the same city. Yeah.
oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Like
I've
it's
never been to their facility, but
yeah. It's just outside of, well, it's outside of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley. It's a beautiful area, close to the mountains, close to hunting, close to everything. Like, yeah, I've only ever lived here, so for me, it's beautiful, and I've never the most beautiful place, but I've never been living anywhere else. So, yeah,
Gotcha. Um, so most chassis you're compatible with, is there any that you know for a fact that no matter what you try, your action just will not work in that chassis, whether it be the design of that chassis, the way let's just say the safety selector, you can't access it because the shape of that chassis. Is there any that you know of for sure that, hey, it won't work with that?
the safety selector should work in all Remington 700s because the trigger is in the exact same position and it's a Remington 700 trigger.
Mhm.
Um, the bolt release is the only one thing on the gun that's in a different place than on a Remington 700. So wrap around chassis, for instance, those ones you won't be able to release your bolt. We did have one customer that had fitment issues on one of their stocks they were using our chassis, and our bolt release was slightly interfering with the side of their chassis. So we did a revision to the bolt release, and now it doesn't interfere and it's functioning fine. So
Gotcha.
we haven't come across any yet that don't work, but we also haven't tested every single one that's out there. So we're heavily relying on feedback there. Like if there is any issues, we do our best to resolve it, right?
So have you tested like the major ones like the Magpul, the MDT, the Area 419, the Foresters or not Foresters, Foundation and guys
We
like
tested
that?
we tested a bunch of them. We haven't tested Area 419. We've done a bunch of the hunting woodstock style like voids, and like there's GRS, I think is the one brand. We've done a lot of the MDT, and we've done a few other ones. I don't remember the name brands because our guy brought it in for us to test. Um, and moving forward, we're planning to bring in more as we're testing more. And yeah,
Well, that works. So do I need to glass bed my action into my chassis or my stock when I get it from you guys, or is it not really needed?
I would say that's only needed if the manufacturer of your stock or chassis recommends you do that, because ours is the same as say Remington 700, except that it's precision ground exterior of the receiver. Like a chassis that's machined, it should be straight drop in. You torque it down and you will be good to go.
Gotcha. Now, we all know nobody likes doing maintenance on their firearms. We all hate cleaning them. Let's be realistic right now. But is there specific maintenance that needs to be done on your action whenever you get it? Besides, like, obviously clean it, but besides that, is there any
Well,
other odds and end maintenance?
when you get it, it's ready to go. But after you shoot it for a while, it's recommended you clean it like any gun. But the benefit of ours is it's fairly easy to strip down. You can pull out the whole firing pin assembly without any tools. It's yeah, a few pictures. Sometimes we don't have them up on the website. We do have a video about how to do it, but it might not be perfectly clear for some. But it's very straightforward, pulling out one piece or pulling off the shroud and pushing down a retaining collar and popping out the handle, and your firing pin assembly comes out, and it's very easy to clean. How often to clean it? I guess it really depends on how often you're shooting it and how dirty it gets. Um, yeah, other than your basic clean of a rifle, the major pulling out the firing pin and cleaning it, I would say, is a once a year affair, or if you're shooting very often, you would want to do it more often.
Gotcha. Now, do you guys have a rifle team that shoots like NRL and PRS and stuff like that, or is it kind of just people that run your actions?
Yeah, we have people who run our action, a few sponsored shooters kind of thing. No actual rifle team at this time.
Any plans for one?
Down the road, anything is possible. Depends how
I mean,
many
that's
actions
true.
we sell.
That's true. I'm hoping to order me an action here pretty soon. Be the first person on this side of the Mississippi to have one.
Oh, that'd be
So
awesome.
I'm hoping. Um, so John's got a great question here, and I meant to click on that. So his question is related to good contact on the bolt face, lugs, lockup being true. Does changing the bolt head affect this? Um,
It shouldn't affect it at all because they're all machined. They're machined in such a way that all the lugs in relation to the face of the bolt head is all done with the same tool. So you will be very consistent with your relationship to each other, and same with the receivers. So when you're switching one bolt head to another bolt head, like I would even say it's very safe to say, like if you're switching from a 308 bolt head to another 308 bolt head, you're not going to even have an effect with your head spacing there, because those components on our firearm are very tightly spec with each other, if that makes sense.
gotcha. So I know we kind of we talked about this the other night on the phone, but you don't really offer barreled actions unless it's a necessity. Now, is there plans in the future for possibly doing that and saying, here's your blueprinted action to your barrel and all your reloading stuff is here? Is there any future plans for that that you're aware of?
At this time, there isn't. It wasn't the road we were started down. But as we all know, roads have forks, so we never know if we'll hit one that will go that way. But at this time, we don't have plans for it.
Okay. I didn't know. I figured I would ask. So now, what's your favorite caliber? I love asking people their favorite caliber because it's always different all over the place.
It's, I think right now it's still 308. I've been doing a bit of research on different rounds, but yeah, 308 is what I know. It's what I've been shooting my whole life, essentially, other than 223. And I keep coming back to 308. Don't really try anything else too exotic, but not to say I won't. But 308 is like, I have a 308. That's my go-to hunting rifle. It's just always there, and it's always 308, never changes. And for where we hunt and what we use here, even for shooting, target shooting, it does the job for everything I need.
Gotcha. Now, do you hand load for your 308 or do you buy factory ammo?
I buy factory match grade, and then occasionally, if I need hand load, I have a buddy who hand loads for me.
Gotcha. Now, are reloading components as scarce and as sparse as they are here in the United States there?
They seem a little less common than they used to be, and prices have definitely gone up.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've been in a ammunition component shortage for going on 2 years now, and I didn't know if it correlated that far
It
north or not.
definitely has. Like I notice it sometimes, like all the bulk is sold and you only have the expensive single boxes left, or the really expensive ammo that no one wants to buy for target shooting.
Yeah,
But usually if you shop around, you can find it. Like there's some pretty good guys that manage to bring in ammo from who knows where, and it's
gotcha.
available.
So here's a question for you. So when I'm out running matches, no matter what the temperature is, rain or shine, as long as it's not thundering or lightning, we're out there, rain, snow, sleet, all of it. Um, Now, have you seen any issues out of your actions at somebody that's been at a match where it's been super muddy, super grimy outside, where your action just kind of gets gummed up or doesn't want to cycle freely and stuff like that? Have you ever seen that issue or had anybody talk about that?
So we had actually we went to Alberta, and the actions were, rather than lightly oiled, they had just a very light grease on the bolt and in the receiver of the bore. And it was windy and the dust came up and the dust got in there. And yeah, they couldn't cycle the one action. And it's because it was greased rather than lightly oiled. So depending
Hmm.
on the situation, depending what it is, yeah, light oil sometimes is better than a light grease, almost always, I suppose. And now we have the fluted bolt, so that would have helped in that situation a bit.
Hmm.
And yeah, if it's really cold, it's like if you know you're gonna be, say, going hunting and it's really cold, it might be wise to pull out your bolt assembly and make sure it's a very light, clean oil in there, almost nothing, because otherwise you have to worry about freezing up, right?
Hmm.
But other than that one time in Alberta where we had the dust get on the grease and it seized up, which all it took was just a little spray of penetrating oil and it freed up. Yeah, other
Gotcha.
than that, we haven't had anything yet
I use
that's
this
anywhere.
I use this oil here. It's called Pro Shot Zero Friction. I don't know if
Okay,
you
yeah,
can get this up there. If you can find that stuff is really good in super hot temperatures, super cold temperatures. Um, it's not really thick, but it's not really thin either, if that makes sense. It's that good medium
yeah.
in the oil. If you can find it where you're at, 10 out of 10, highly recommend it. It's good stuff. Um, so how how can I get your action here to the United States? Like, how would I go about ordering it? Like, straight through your website,
Yeah,
distributors?
just well, yeah, shoot pristine.com and the US website and you order and you should get it. There we have inventory in the States, 3 to 5 days processing and off it goes. Like we need the FFL and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There, I don't know if there is, we're working with dealers to get it out there more, but as of right now, the quickest way is probably just through the website.
Gotcha. Um, so is there any major hindrances that you run into trying to import into the United States with being in Canada with how some of the laws are there? Is there issues with that coming this way?
No, the Canadian laws really only limit the civilians, like manufacturers for export. We're not too limited as long as we have the proper licensing, of course. And then importing into the States is similar as long as we have the proper documentation supporting it and we go about doing it the right way. There's no issues really there. Once you have everything set up, like that can take a long time to get everything, all your licensing in place and permits and things like that. But once it's done, it's pretty straightforward.
Gotcha. Um, what's the best way to stay in the know of what's going on with the company there?
I believe on the website we have a newsletter sign up, and the other way is just following us on social media.
Gotcha.
Like
And you're on all the major platforms, I'm
yeah,
guessing.
I believe we're on Facebook and Instagram. I think we might be on some other ones. I don't do the social media aspect too much, but I was gonna say there should be a post soon about a fluted bolt once I get them, the nitrided ones in, and we'll have some neat pictures of those guys.
I'm excited for to see those. I can't wait to finally order my Pristine Action. Um, so um, with you, you're a big hunter, right? Or relatively big hunter, or are you just more of like a target shooter?
I'm more like a target shooter who occasionally goes hunting.
What what's your favorite type of hunting to do? Is it like backpack excursion? Is it sit in a tree stand?
The hunting I've done previously has been just driving logging roads and oh, there he is, got him. But I'm wanting to change that style of hunting. I want to become more of like the hiking, mountaineering style of hunter where I'm actually learning how to find the animals, where I'm hiking in where no one else goes and you're taking a pick of 30 bucks and you're choosing one of them, the best one kind of thing, because there's nobody around. Like that's the type of hunting I would like to get into. And yeah, I potentially have a mentor who will help me with that, but we'll see how that goes. Um, because I feel that's the skill set that would get me every year good game, a lot of meat in the freezer. Because a lot around us, a lot of people do the truck hunting, and yeah, it's good in its own way, but you are limited severely on what you're going to get.
Gotcha. I didn't know how that worked there because, like, here in the U.S., like, if you shot a animal from a vehicle, like, it's a big, big no-no.
Oh, you're
Like,
not allowed to
big.
shoot the animal from the vehicle, so your gun can't be loaded or anything. And if you see him, you'd have to hop out, load, and then shoot him.
Oh, gotcha. See, that's still weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's just different. So now your rifles or your actions, sorry, pardon me. Your actions come with a MOA base plate already
Yeah,
on there. What is that? Is that a 20 MOA? Is it a
that's a
40?
20 MOA.
Gotcha. Now, what setup do you run on your generally everyday rifle that you run and shoot? Is it
It's 20
um
MOA. So yeah, well, all
well, I
my
mean like optics, things like that.
like you mean what type of optics?
Yeah,
Sorry.
like yeah, are you
Where
running like
I use Vortex a lot. I have a Bushnell Elite on my hunting rifle, and then we use a lot of Vortex because they're easily obtainable here, and yeah, for we really like them.
I'm a big vortex.
Yeah. Well,
So
they have a really good product and they have a really good warranty. Like we had one that had some issues on the parallax adjustment and no problem. They replaced it, and it was even our fault. But
gotcha.
we don't know how it went down and how it happened, but the tube got slightly crushed. And yeah, they're even like, you over tightened it and crushed the tube, but here's your new one. And we're like, wow, like it's clearly my fault or our fault that that scope doesn't work, but yet warranty covers it, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, I've got a Razor Gen 2 on my 6.5 Creed in the Area 419 chassis, and I fell one day with it and completely shattered my optic. And
Yeah,
I'd only had my optic for, I want to say, a month or so, and maybe it was closer to 2 or 3 months, anyways. And I called up my buddies over at Vortex, and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, this is what happened." They're like, "Just send it to us," and they had it. I want to say I sent it to them around my birthday, and I had it back before Christmas.
yeah,
And my birthday's not far from Christmas, so um,
yeah.
but so yeah, it's pretty cool. I was glad that they fixed it. I'm, I think they sent me a new optic versus just fixing it, but I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to argue either way. It works
Yeah.
now. So we're going to close it out, but we're going to close it out on a positive note. What's one giant piece of advice, whether it's dad advice, brother advice, friend advice, business owner advice, husband advice, any of that type of advice? One solid piece of advice.
The most solid piece of advice I can think of is do the best you can do at whatever you're doing, and ask people for advice around you, and surround yourselves with people of who you want to aspire to become, essentially.
That'll work. It's a good piece of advice. But guys, I appreciate everybody for stopping in and joining us tonight. And get over there and follow Charles on Instagram, Facebook, and his YouTube channel at Pristine Actions on YouTube.
I believe it's, yeah, shoot Pristine or Pristine Actions. Yeah.
On YouTube, type it in there. I have it linked in the description down below. Have his Instagram and his Facebook linked. And John has posted all the links throughout the chat. So I appreciate everybody, and I will catch everybody next time. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.